Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door is one of my favorite, no, probably my favorite role-playing game of all time. The characters, the unique environments, even the music, even the story to some extent. I mean, it didn't have the greatest story because, it's a Mario game, but but as we all know, nothing in this world is sacred, which is why I am bringing you the terrifyingly terrible tale of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. They didn't even try. It's just the name of the game. That's the name of the story. Alright, some weird, frankly freaky crap happened to me recently, and I just had to talk about it. At first, I believed the store clerks were playing a really bad prank, which if this is where I think it's going to be, then how could the store clerk haunt the game? That doesn't really make much sense to me, but now I just don't know what to believe. I apologize for how long this post is, and, well, they're not kidding. This is a really long story, but there is a lot for me to tell. It all started about 4 months ago. I was on my way home from college when I decided to pop into a game store on the way. What's the name of this game store? I don't know. Author never tells us. This store is a small shop. Is it a store or is it a shop? Okay. That sells old games such as NES, SNES, Genesis, Game Boy, original PlayStation, etc. We didn't need the whole list, but I pop in about once or twice a month to browse and see if they've gotten any new games. Sometimes I find real treasures, like Metal Gear Solid, Xenogears, Secret of Mana. Those were really odd choices of games, but whatever. And the like. But I digress. I walked into the store and started to browse through their new stock. I'm pretty sure I'm leaving that in. I'm there often enough that the guys at the store pretty much know me, and so they let me know some of the better stuff that they just got in. While browsing their GameCube selection, my eye caught hold of something. How? I have arms? Whatever. A copy of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. I remember the game from my childhood and remembered how amazing the game was and wanted to recapture that moment. I took a quick look over the case and saw it was pretty bare up. Bare. What does that mean? There was a chunk of plastic missing from the top left corner of the case, where the front and back are bound by. The plastic was scratched in a couple places, and the paper cover of the game was slightly faded, probably due to the game being 8 years old. Dude, I own games, like Wii games and stuff, that are, like, way older than that, and the covers are still fine. I doubt 8 years would do all that much to it, but I digress, I guess. There was also a red circular sticker attacked to the top right of corner of the attacked. I didn't add that in. How did the sticker must not be doing a really good job of attacking. I opened the case and looked inside, and to my astonishment, the CD was in pristine condition. Also, if you want to get real technical, it's not a CD, that's a mini DVD. Anyways, as if it had never, I'm leaving that in, been touched. I tried to look for a price sticker, but there wasn't one on the case, as there was for every other game, and just chalked it up to it being a new arrival. And they hadn't had a chance to put a sticker on. Well, if they hadn't had a chance to put a sticker on, why is it in the... whatever. I turned and asked the clerks how much for the Paper Mario game. They just looked at each other in confusion and shrugged. One of them piped up and said, $30? I felt that was rather excessive for an old GameCube game, and believe me, compared to the prices nowadays, that's actually really cheap. Like, I bought my copy for $100 on eBay. It didn't even come with a manual. Can you believe that? No manual? Shaking my head. And with me not having a job and just being a lazy bum and having to save every dollar for my college textbooks, and I find it hard to believe that author here even made it into any college, but I put the game down and left the store disheartened. I'm leaving that in. Author seems to actually be a bit responsible here, saving his money. For the next couple days, I kept on thinking about the game and how much fun I had playing it as a child. Please don't do this. After the 4th day, I finally caved in and went back to the store. You know, people like you are the reason humanity has no hope. Hopping that they still had it in stock so I could buy it. I entered the store and asked the clerk, but they said they sold it the day after I had inquired about it to one of their regulars. I cursed myself for not picking it up sooner, but knew that there was nothing I could do, so I went home, eventually forgetting about the game. Never mind, there still is hope. Well, there would be if the story didn't keep on going, but unfortunately it does. The next month, I stopped in for my usual browsing, that I do every month, apparently. I glanced through the GameCube pile again when something caught my eye. It was a game case, where one of the corners had a chunk missing from it. I'm leaving that in, too. I thought back to the Paper Mario game and pulled the case out and looked at it. Sure enough, it was Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. Wowee. It appeared to be the same case as before. The only difference being that there was a second circular sticker on the front. I opened it up to look at the CD, and it was in pristine condition, just like before. I couldn't believe my luck. I turned and started joking with the clerks, taunting about how I found it funny that he would even return a game like that, and even how I knew it was the same one as before, due to the quality of the case. With that said, they both looked at each other again with a confused look on their faces before talking to each other. Did you see Rick return that? No, man, I haven't seen him in weeks. What about you? I haven't seen him either. This went back and forth for a couple minutes. I love my story about Paper Mario before they shrugged it off, thinking that maybe one of the other guys working the store had brought it back. After having that discussion with each other that added absolutely nothing to the story, it occurred to me that if neither of them took the game back, then neither of them knew the condition of the disc, and was able to use that to haggle down the price a bit. Wow, great details. Can we get to the part where the game kills you or whatever? Since the copy had been used and wasn't pristine as it was a month ago, I bought it and took it home to start playing it, as opposed to buying it and just letting it rot on your shelf. I didn't have a GameCube to play the game on anymore, but I did have a Wii and my leftover memory cards from when I used to have the game, so I inserted the disc, plugged in an old controller and memory card, made a new game, and started playing. You didn't need to add all that detail. You could just said, I started playing, and that would have... I skipped ahead and just selected a new game. So you're so nostalgic. Oh, wait. Crap. I'm leaving this in. I skipped a line. And started playing. The opening played, and I started to feel nostalgic about the game. I skipped ahead and selected a new game. Author is so nostalgic about this game that he just straight up skips the opening. Selected the first slot and named the file and started playing. The game started out normally. Carrie flies in, drops off mail, calls into the house for Mario and Luigi, the letter from the princess, talking about the treasure in the town called... You don't need to add all this detail. You don't need to have a play-by-play. I've played the game. I know how it starts. Them traveling across the sea, everything played out normally. Then why did you even say that? You should have just said everything played out normally. Then it showed the curtains and the screen transition it does between acts. Yeah, I hate to be that guy, but in the game they're called chapters. Whatever. The spinning coin was there, and it showed Mario's, Peach's, and Bowser's faces, and the X-Naught symbol. And the word prologue, as usual. Why do I feel like you're just using all of this needless detail to pad out the story? But something seemed a bit off from the scene. Once the coin had spun past the X-Naught symbol, it cycled through other 2D cartoon-like faces that I'd never seen before. It was weird, but I shrugged it off, thinking that somebody just messed around with the game data and added in 2 extra sprite faces just to mess with people. Yes, because that's what I do when I sell used games. I continued, and everything played through normally. Everything played through normally through the majority of the game. When I beat Hooktail... Wait a minute. Hooktail? Hooktail's like the first, big boss you beat. That's not a majority of the game. That's just the first, chapter of the game. Whatever. I went through the transition to play as Princess Peach. When the X-Naut base loaded, it seemed more eerie than before. How do you know? You haven't played this game in 8 years, right? Whatever. The lights in the background were flickering, and the room seemed darker. Well, there were lights, so it couldn't have been that dark. And the X-Nauts, especially Grotus, looked slightly twisted. What's that supposed to mean? Oh, you look twisted. Okay. The 2 white X-Nauts that escorted her into Grotus's chamber had their ears pointed upwards, as if in the position of horns. I bet Arthur must have felt real clever about that detail. Lord Crump's eyes were darkened, and his cloak, which was usually a bright, vibrant red, was more crimson. Get it? Like blood? Are you scared yet? And Grotus' staff was black, with a red crystal orb, because red and black make everything scarier. And rather than the blue glass on the top of his head showing his cranium being metallic. Whoa. Arthur's smart. He used big word. Cranium. It showed what appeared to be a brain, because brains are terrifying, especially for the author who doesn't have any. I looked at the scene confused, knowing that this wasn't what the game was meant to look like. But I, again, shrugged it off to somebody messing with the code and the data. Again, thing most people do. I continued through Peach's side mission thing, talking to Tech and sending the email to Mario, and padded out the story. After completing that, I went through Bowser's little side story, and it proceeded uneventfully back to Mario. I proceeded through the small cutscene in the Koopa village and left, received the email from Peach as normal, skipped through it, and continued along more than when I received a second email notification after taking 3 steps. Yeah, that's what happens in the game. You don't need to do this. Mario automatically opened it, and it opened it handheld email device. Okay. And a strange text bubble popped up. It was the bubble used for the Shadow Queen, the pure purple, as opposed to all that unpure purple. Ew. Where was I? Oh, uneven bubbles with shaking white letters, but the message read .E.L.P. I'm not doing this. Help me, please. No, wait, no. Yeah, help me, please help. I was confused as to why I was receiving a second email and why it was in the Shadow Queen speech pattern, and why it was asking for help. I decided... Wait, no, I'm leaving that in. I started to get a bit creeped out at the game, and decided it was just a game. What's the worst that could happen? Author is going to regret saying that, I can guarantee. I continued through the game at a steady pace, the creepiness continuing to grow. From the level's music being eerier than I remember, and not once did the author think to turn the game off because he's an idiot, to Cortez having bits and scraps of bleeding flesh stuck to his bones. Isn't that great? To Gloomtail talking about seeking revenge for his sister by ripping the flesh from Mario's bones, roasting it, and then eating it. That's a lot of detail. Okay. Every time I would receive an email from Peach, I got another one with the same Shadow Queen speech bubble asking me for help. I finally reached near the end of the game. I remember how tough the Shadow Queen was, so I spent plenty of time farming out levels from a Mazy Daisies and got as many Zest Deluxes as I could before heading in. I'm glad you added that part about you grinding. That really added a lot to this scary story. Everything played out as scripted until the Shadow Queen is supposed to make her offer to Mario to join her. There's a lot of twos. Rather than inviting him to be her servant, she talked about how her purpose was to kill anybody who dared enter her chamber, and the fight started. She was dealing much more damage than she should have, which, again, how do you know? You haven't played this game in 8 years. And she seemed to have more health than usual. How do you know? However, with all the levels I had gained and all the items I farmed, I was able to clear her second phase. During the transition to her second phase, she screamed, saying that she would not be defeated and that I would become like the other two, trapped for all eternity in the game. I hate it when that happens, you know? You just mind your own business, and then those darn ghosts just happen to trap you in a game for eternity. It's so annoying. But it's at that moment that everything started to click in my mind. She wasn't talking to Mario. She was talking directly to me. Took you long enough to figure that out? And those 2 extra faces on the coin in the act intros were the other 2 she was talking about. I just laughed and thought that was just guys who modified the game adding a 4th wall break part to really freak out players. Those silly game modifier guys. Classic. She shifted into her second form and screamed about how I will die in that room. Yeah, my ex did the same thing. She fully healed herself as scripted, just skipped the entire cutscene and continued with the combat. Captivating. It took several minutes and all my items, but I slowly chipped away at her health until she reached 0. She screamed again and started to curse. Oh, don't do that. Stating that she can never die, that I only managed to save my own soul, and that she will be reborn and she will attack again, and she will make sure it will be someone I care about. She then exploded in the usual way, and the game ended as usually did, with the cheesy ending and credits. I turned off the game, ejected it from my Wii, putting it back in its case, and stashing it on my shelf with the rest of my games. And I guess we're just gonna ignore all that stuff. Okay. A couple weeks later, I was in desperate need of cash for the next book in my college course. Starting OnlyFans, dude. Works every time. So I decided to sell some of the games I never play. I went over my shelf and rooted through my games to find any that I wanted to sell. I soon realized that my copy of the Paper Mario game wasn't on the shelf. I looked all over my room and couldn't find it anywhere. I was confused since I had not had any friends over since I had put the game there. And so wait. So it was weeks later, right? That means you potentially haven't seen anybody for a couple weeks. And nobody would have been able to take the game off the shelf. Really now? If nobody was at your house and nobody could take the game? Confused, I carried on with my business. Creepy game, disappeared. Not that big of a deal. I just carried on with my business, thinking that it would show up sooner or later. A few days later, I got a call from my friend, Jeremy. I'm surprised you have friends. He said he went to the game store that I was always bragging about and decided to pick up some games. He said that he was able to find a few games, like a copy of Sonic Adventure 2, Pikmin, and Metroid Prime 2. He invited me to come over, play some games, so I decided, what the heck, to head on over. So when I got there, I asked him if I could see the pile of games he got at the store. So he showed them to me. I looked through them, and what I found shocked me. It was the same Paper Mario, the 1,000-Year Door game, that I had gotten a month ago, in the same condition as before, with the same markings. I get it, the chunk of the case missing, ripped, everything. I checked the upper right corner for the 2 circular red stickers and noticed that there was now a 3rd sticker. Ooh, only this one was white with blue writing on it. Color variety, I like it. it was tiny writing, so I had to squint to see it. But it spelled out James, ... My name. Way to out yourself, James. Should have kept your name out of this. Now I can ridicule you. I looked at him and asked how he got it. He said he got it at the game store. And asked the clerks about it. The both looked at each other confused, like neither of them even knew it was there. Confused it out how it possibly returned to the store, I told him how I owned the game not too long before him, and it somehow disappeared from my room. He laughed and said I was making stuff up, because I wanted the game. I shrugged it off. I ignored the obvious fact that the game was definitely haunted and that he somehow got it. And played video games with him until I got too late. Sorry. I hate when I get too late. So annoying. Then I went home. A week later, I got a call from Jeremy's mother. Ooh, it's getting spicy. Asking me if I had seen her son. Oh, never mind. I told her that I hadn't and asked why she was asking me. She told me that Jeremy had gone missing and that the police are looking for him. She had entered his room 2 nights prior to call him down to dinner, and he wasn't there. I bet he lives in his mom's basement or something. That's why he's friends with him. He's a loser like him. His TV was on, and so was his old GameCube. The disc tray was open, but there was nothing inside the system. But the screen was frozen into the image of the game over screen from a game he was playing. I was worried, and even joined in the search efforts to look for him, but to no avail. It's now been 2 weeks since Jeremy disappeared, and nobody misses him. And nobody had seen him anywhere. I went to the game store to see if Jeremy had been in since he bought the copy of Paper Mario, because, as we all know, missing people love to hang out at game stores, and they said they hadn't seen him. As I was turning to leave the store, I saw something on one of the tables near the exit. It was the copy of, you guessed it, Paper Mario: The 1,000-Year Door. We had both purchased with the same markings on the case. I looked at it and noticed that there were now 3 red stickers, and the white sticker looked different. I squinted to read the blue writing again. It said, open. And the author, being the idiot he is, I bet he opened it. I opened the case to see what was inside. See what I mean? And there was a scrap of paper. It was purple. Again, color variety. I like it. It was purple. Paper with the edges all torn and shredded. White. White. The word white. That's what I said. White. Spelling out a message. What else would it spell out a message? Numbers? The message read, I told you it would be someone you cared about next. I dropped the case as I read the message. I was frozen in terror. One of the clerks came up to me and asked what was wrong. I suddenly thought of something and told him that I needed to see something in the game real quick. I'm not crazy, I swear. It would only take no more than a few minutes. They hooked up a GameCube. Oh my gosh. You made them go through all the trouble to hook up a GameCube and just for your fantasies, whatever. They hooked up a GameCube to one of the TVs in their store and turned it on. I created a new file. I didn't care about the name or anything. I just had to see the prologue intro scene I just had to see the prologue intro screen so confirm something. Alright. As the intro loaded, I watched the coin flip and flip. It cycled through the images. Mario, Peach, Bowser, X-Naught symbol, Unknown Guy 1, Unknown Guy 2. Then the coin flipped one last time and the game froze as it flipped. I stared in horror as the face on the coin was a flattened 2D cartoon portrait of Jeremy. Oh no, not a cartoon! When I came to my senses, I heard one of the clerks mention that one of the other 2 men's faces on the coin was Rick, the guy who owned the game before me, and I started to connect all the dots. The faces on the coins were indeed the victims of the game. Well, I could have told you that way earlier, dude. Like I had thought earlier, the stickers on the front represented the people who played the game, red for victim and white, my sticker, for the only survivor. And the case was probably so banged up from people trying to destroy the disc and case together, because that's a perfectly logical conclusion. And as to why the disc continues to be in pristine condition, I don't know. But one thing's for sure, this is not some ordinary game. Author is a genius. I had no idea. I thought for sure it was just a normal copy. I mean, yeah, it's just, I didn't know. To this day, I've never entered the store again, much less pick up a game again. I fear the Shadow Queen is lurking, like in a Twitch chat, waiting for the moment to take me. And, that was the story. Yep. You wasted 25 minutes of your life listening to that. How stupid can you be? Like, bruh. Anyways, overall, that was pretty terrible. I mean, like, just, he kept on describing things that happened in the game. Like, he described the intro, you know, the Mario, he gets the letter, and they go on the boat, and they go to Rogueport or whatever. And it just seemed like total padding to me, because, like, most people reading the story have probably already played the game, right? So, like, they don't need the recap. Like, hello, I've played the game personally. It's just stupid. He just went in a lot of pointless detail on things that didn't add anything to the story. And, I mean, the concept was sort of interesting, having your soul, kind of like an even more messed up version of, like, Jumanji or something. But, I mean, with a Mario game, I don't know, man. It was stupid and didn't make sense, and author was a total idiot. I mean, it was pretty obvious that the game was haunted this whole time, but yep. This was Pastas Without Sauce, and I bid you adieu.